What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first day of my week-long palette resurrection where I'm going to use the same palette every freaking day for an entire week. So with this palette resurrection, I wanted to choose like a completely like a dead palette in like every sense of the word, really. To me, this is very much a dead palette in more ways than one. This is the Lime Crime Venus palette. This is an infamous palette in many ways because around the time this launched, the website or the brand's website had a breach of security. Obviously, a lot of people's credit card information, a lot of people's personal information, all of that data got stolen, which is just unacceptable. The way the brand handled it also wasn't ideal because they tried to brush it under the rug, which was just even worse. Like, come on, guys, that was unacceptable. Luckily, I paid with PayPal on that website. I never made an account on that website. I try to avoid making accounts on websites at all costs. I'm not saying that you should have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to trust your information to people that say it's safe and secure. But anyway, palette that will live in infamy, yet somehow started a trend, an industry-wide trend that people just cannot seem to let go of. Like, love them or hate them, like it or not, this kind of started the whole warm-toned red, orange eyeshadow palette trend that so many other brands have hopped on. Not the least of which being Anastasia Beverly Hills. I feel like they probably capitalized even more than Lime Crime did on that trend. So this palette has been buried by so many new releases that are just like it, by brands that people trust more so than they do Lime Crime. But this palette in and of itself has become kind of an iconic palette. Not only do a lot of people own this palette, but they've since bought dupes for this palette, which there are thousands of. So I feel like a lot of you guys and just a lot of makeup enthusiasts in general have dupes of this palette. It's not too hard to find these shades these days. Back when it came out, however, it was a little bit more difficult to find the dupes. But since then, so many companies have come out with dupes. Like I said, even if you don't have this palette dying in your collection or buried under all your other warm tone palettes like mine was, I am going to list dupes in the description box for each of these shades. Anyway, yeah, I hope you guys are looking forward to this week as much as I am, and actually trying to get some use out of this palette because I never find myself using it anymore. Love them or hate them, they started a trend, and that trend, it just still hasn't died, and yet it has somehow managed to bury the one that started it all. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I'm going to prime my eyes. I'm going to use some concealer, and then I'm just going to kind of blend that in with a beauty blender and set that with a bone-colored eyeshadow, or like a shadow closer to my skin tone here. And I'm going to take a fluffy brush, a little bit smaller than the last one I used, and I'm going to take the shade Rebirth, which is basically just a coral eyeshadow shade. It's like a bright peach coral shade. And I'm gonna put that in my crease and kind of on the outer part of my eye. Honestly, it doesn't really matter too much. You can get this all over your lid and that's not gonna make too much of a difference. But I'm just gonna blend that out. If you can see though, I'm not taking it beyond my orbital bone or my brow bone. I'm not taking it past my brow bone anywhere. I'm basically taking it up to my brow bone. I'm using this as a transition as well and just diffusing the edges. You don't necessarily have to use a neutral shades in the palette as the transition. This works just fine, I've noticed. Then I'm actually going to go in with the namesake of the palette, the shade Venus. Taking that on this little e.l.f. detail crease brush, and I'm packing that on the inner and outer corner of my eye. I do end up putting it all over my entire lid ultimately because the shade that I use next doesn't really give the same effect. This shade is almost like a really dark pink. It is by far the most unique shade in the palette, but again, I will list some dupes in the description box. So I'm going to put that all over my lid as well. I'm just going to use that fluffy brush, but I am going to intensify it with my finger. First, I'm just going to blend it out with the fluffy brush, then I'm going to pack it on a little bit more with my finger here. Then I'm going to go in with the shade Shell, which is that iridescent, almost duochrome coral shade. Initially I'm going to use my finger, but then I eventually go in and use a wet brush to make it a little bit more shimmery. The foundation that I'm using, I'm actually going to use the Too Faced Peach Perfect Foundation, the Comfort Matte Foundation, and I'm shearing that out a bit. I've been trying to not really pack on the coverage so much on my face lately, and I've actually been liking the results, so. Then I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of concealer on the bluer parts right under my eye. I'm not going to go too crazy with it, just a little bit on the inner corner, and then just pat it in on my under eye here. I'm setting that with a Kat Von D Lock-It blotting powder in the shade Light, as well as just any areas on my face that I don't want to get too oily. Then I'm setting the rest of my face with the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in the shade Ethereal Light. Back into the Venus palette, I'm actually going to take the shade Venus, which is that red shade again. Dark pinkish red, I guess is the best way I can describe this. Blending that on my lower lash line, but only on the outer part. And I'm keeping that shape consistent, as you can see. Even if I have to drag it down a little further, I just want to keep that shape consistent. Then I'm going to take Shell, which is that iridescent coral shade. I'm putting that on an e.l.f. smudge brush and smudging that on the inner part of my lower lash line. And since I did that wet on the lower lash line, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do that on the upper lid as well. So I ended up taking that shading brush and wetting it with some setting spray and going back into Shell and packing it on just the lower part of my eyelid. If you open your eye and see where the light hits it and then pack the shadow on there, there's no need to drag it up any further, but just open your eye, look into the light, see where the light wants to hit it, like you can see right here, and that's where I'm packing on the bulk of that shimmer shade right there. To line my waterline, I'm just using this ColourPop Mr. Bing eyeliner. It's just that warm brown eyeliner. I thought black might be a bit too much for this look. For bronzer, I'm going to use the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. This is actually an e.l.f. highlighting brush, and I am liking the results so far, so I'm going to blend that out just in the normal places that I put my bronzer. Then I'm going to add a blush. I'm just using a light pink blush, putting that on the apples of my cheeks, using the same brush, just swirling it around. For highlight, I'm going to use the Becca Moonstone highlight. For my brows, I'm going to use this NYX Precision Brow Pencil, which is what I've been using lately, and it's kind of growing on me. I've been shaping out my eyebrows a little differently lately. I've been shaping my eyebrows by looking head on into a mirror, and that way I can see the shape that I want it to make, and that way I can get them even before I start filling them in. So I do kind of go back and forth with my brows, which I've always done, but I found that it's easier if I just do the initial shape by looking head on into a mirror. And then if I have any kind of like hairs that want to dangle down past that line, I can just put those in place once I put brow gel on. For brow gel, I'm going to use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Clear Brow Gel. It is the only brow gel that I like these days. I'm just going to use the Essence Lash Princess False Effect Mascara, and I'm going to slouch while I do it, because how can you put mascara on without just plopping back into your chair? For lips, I'm going to use this Nude Sticks lip pencil in the shade Whisper. I think it actually went pretty well with this look, and that is the finished look. Alright guys, I hope you liked this video. I hope you're looking forward to the rest of the week where I do a different look with this palette every day. I'm planning on doing like Monday through Saturday, because Sunday I still want to do like a subscriber request. I am moving my subscriber request to Sunday from here on out, and So we're going to either do Monday through Friday. I'm going to try to do Monday through Saturday, a different look every single day with this palette. I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber and you want to be, just hit the subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.